The strange signals came on a Tuesday. At first, no one at the Global Space Research Center paid much attention. Strange signals from space happened all the time. Usually, they were just stars or other natural things making noise. But Dr. Olivia Bennett couldn't sleep that night. Something about the pattern kept playing in her mind. She got out of bed at 3 a.m. and went back to her computer. The signals weren't random. They had a pattern. A very specific pattern. She called her colleague Dr. Alan Reeves at 4 a.m. "You better have a good reason for this, Olivia," Alan said, his voice heavy with sleep. "The signals follow prime number sequences, then shift to the Fibonacci series, then to perfect squares." "Alan, this isn't random. This isn't natural." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then, "I'll be there in 20 minutes. For the next 2 weeks, Olivia and Alan worked almost without rest. They found more patterns, more complex mathematical sequences that couldn't happen by accident. When they finally took their findings to the center's director, he called the president. 3 months later, the whole world knew. We were not alone in the universe, and whoever was out there was trying to talk to us. It took another 6 months to figure out how to answer. Humanity sent back their own message, using the same mathematical language. 2 months later, they received coordinates. A meeting place. The United Nations selected a team of 12 experts from around the world. Olivia and Alan were among them. They waited at the chosen location, a remote field in northern Canada, surrounded by military personnel and scientific equipment. "What if they're hostile?" Alan asked, looking at the clear night sky. Olivia shrugged. "Then we're probably doomed anyway. A species that can cross the stars could wipe us out without landing." The first sign was a light in the sky, brighter than any star. It grew larger, but made no sound. The air began to shimmer, like heat waves on a summer road. Then it was simply there, a vessel like nothing human eyes had ever seen, floating 10 feet above the ground, glowing with soft blue light. A door opened, or rather, a section of the ship became transparent, and a ramp of light appeared. The beam that emerged wasn't what anyone expected. It looked like a walking crystal, with facets that caught the light and broke it into colors. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, and moved with surprising grace for something that appeared to be made of stone. "I am Saltaire," it said, its voice coming from everywhere and nowhere at once, "ambassador of the Galactic Confederation." The next day, the world learned that humanity was not just one species among many. We were one species among thousands, spread across the galaxy. The Galactic Confederation united 7 major species and hundreds of minor ones in a loose alliance of mutual aid and protection. But the galaxy was not at peace. For 10,000 of your years, Exaltar told the United Nations Assembly, "We have fought against the void hegemony. They consume worlds. They destroy civilizations. They spread like a disease across the stars." The crystal being's facets darkened, a gesture they would later learn indicated sadness. "Your world sits at a critical point in space, a junction between Confederation territories and the advancing hegemony. We offer you membership, protection, and technology. But we cannot force you to join us. The choice must be yours." The debate raged for months. Some nations wanted to join immediately. Others feared losing Earth's independence. Some didn't trust the aliens at all. In the end, it was Olivia who made the argument that tipped the balance. "Whether we join them or not, we now know we're not alone. And some of what's out there is dangerous. We can face that danger alone, or we can face it with friends. I know which I prefer." 1 year after the first signal, humanity voted to join the Galactic Confederation. Earth became the newest, and by far the least advanced, member of an alliance spanning half the galaxy. No one knew it then, but humanity would not remain the least advanced for long. 5 years passed since Earth joined the Confederation. The learning curve had been steep. Humans had to catch up on thousands of years of technology and knowledge. But they were catching up faster than anyone expected. Captain Jack Harlow stood on the bridge of the ESS Pathfinder, Earth's first true starship. The ship was mostly built using Confederation designs, but humans had made their own changes. The Pathfinder was smaller and more agile than most Confederation vessels. "Status report, Lieutenant Cruz," Jack said. Samantha Cruz looked up from her console. She was the ship's second-in-command and the crew's unofficial alien relations expert. 4 members of their 20-person crew weren't human. "All systems normal, Captain. We're on course for the Rigel diplomatic station. We should arrive in 6 hours." Their mission was simple: deliver Earth delegates to a Confederation meeting. It was a milk run, meant to give the Pathfinder's crew experience. Nothing was supposed to go wrong. 3 hours into their journey, alarms blared across the bridge. "Unknown object ahead," reported Kel, the blue-skinned Mithran at the sensor station. "It's not on any charts." Jack leaned forward. On screen, a strange structure appeared on the main display. It was clearly artificial, a metal sphere surrounded by rings that didn't seem connected to anything. It floated in the emptiness of space, silent and dark. "Any signs of life?" Jack asked. "None," Kel said. "It appears dormant." Samantha moved closer to the screen. "That's not Confederation design, and it's definitely not hegemony." "How old is it?" Jack asked. Kel's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of confusion among his species. "Sensors indicate it's been here for at least 50,000 years. The discovery of an ancient artifact wasn't in their mission parameters, but Jack knew what they had to do. "Prepare a boarding party. Lieutenant Cruz, you're with me." Vila, their Lorethi engineer, raised her tentacle-like appendage. "Captain, with respect, boarding unknown alien technology is against Confederation protocols." Jack smiled. "Good thing we're still learning all those protocols, then." The boarding party consisted of Jack, Samantha, and 2 others. They wore spacesuits as they approached the artifact in a shuttle. Up close, it was even stranger. The ring spun slowly around the central sphere, defying physics. How is it still operational after 50,000 years? Samantha wondered aloud. They found an opening on the sphere's surface. Inside was a single, empty room with a pedestal in the center. On the pedestal sat a small crystal cube. "Don't touch it," warned Dren, their Confederation security officer. But as they approached, the cube began to glow. Symbols appeared on the walls, flowing like water. "It's some kind of data," Samantha said, scanning with her device. "Massive amounts of it." Suddenly, the artifact shuddered. The light went from blue to red. "We triggered something," Jack said. "Everyone back to the shuttle." They barely made it back to the Pathfinder before the artifact released a pulse of energy that knocked out most of their systems. The ship drifted, powerless, in an unfamiliar sector of space. "Damage report," Jack called out as emergency lights came on. "Main power offline. Engines offline. Communications offline," Vela reported. "The pulse fried our primary systems." Kel looked up from his station. "The nearest Confederation outpost is 2 weeks away at full speed. Without engines, we're stranded." The alien crew members fell silent. In Confederation training, this was a worst-case scenario. A ship without power was considered lost. But Jack smiled. "Vela, can you get auxiliary power to the engineering bay?" "Yes, but..." "Good. Samantha, get everyone who can hold a wrench down there. Kel, see if you can salvage any data from that pulse." The aliens looked confused. "Captain," Dren said carefully, "the recommended procedure is to enter stasis and wait for rescue." Jack shook his head. "Not how we do things where I come from. We've got a ship full of smart people and a problem to solve. So let's solve it." As they went to work, Samantha noticed she still had the data from the artifact secured in her scanner. Whatever they had found, it was coming with them, if they could get home. 10 years had passed since Earth joined the Confederation. The data from the ancient artifact, discovered by the Pathfinder, had changed everything. It contained designs for technology beyond even the Confederation's understanding. Humans, with their fresh perspective and lack of preconceived notions, saw possibilities where others saw only confusion. Elaine Donovan wiped sweat from her forehead as she made final adjustments to the prototype. At 32, she was the youngest head engineer in Earth's space program. The device in front of her didn't look like much, just a silver cylinder with blue lights running along its sides. "Dr. Walsh, we're ready for the test," she called. Kevin Walsh looked up from his equations. The quantum physicist had spent 3 years helping Elaine turn the artifact's data into something real. "The Confederation representatives are here," he said quietly. "They still don't think it will work." Elaine smiled. "Then we'll just have to show them, won't we?" They walked to the observation room, where 3 alien officials waited. One was a crystalline, Sol like the first ambassador to Earth. The others were a blue-skinned Mithran and a reptilian Vex. None looked impressed. "Begin the test sequence," Elaine said to her team. On the testing floor, a small unmanned ship sat ready. The silver cylinder, the Nexus drive, was installed in its engine room. If it worked as designed, it would cut travel time between star systems by more than half. Confederation scientists spent centuries trying to improve jump drives. The Sol representative said, "What makes you think humans can succeed where we failed?" "Sometimes a fresh pair of eyes helps," Kevin replied. "You've been using the same approach for too long. The artifact showed us a different way." The test ship's engines fired up. Blue light pulsed along the hull as the Nexus drive activated. Then, instead of the gradual acceleration of standard drives, the ship simply vanished. Alarm filled the aliens' faces. "Where did it go?" demanded the Vex. Elaine checked her watch. "It should be arriving at the Jupiter station right about now." A screen on the wall lit up with a transmission from Jupiter. The test ship had arrived. A journey that should have taken days had happened in seconds. "Impossible," whispered the Mithran. Before the Confederation representatives could recover from their shock, alarms blared throughout the facility. "Emergency transmission from the outer colonies," a technician announced. "The Void Hegemony has launched a surprise attack on Station Epsilon." The Confederation officials moved quickly to communications. Station Epsilon was a major outpost, home to thousands of civilians from multiple species. If it fell, the hegemony would gain a foothold in a strategic sector. "Nearest defense fleet is 3 days away," the Exal said grimly. "Epsilon won't last 3 hours." Kevin and Elaine exchanged looks. "The prototype battleship," Elaine said. "It has a Nexus drive installed." "It's not been tested with a crew," Kevin warned. "No choice now," Elaine replied. She turned to the aliens. "We can get help to Epsilon in minutes, not days, but we'll need a crew willing to risk it." 2 hours later, a human-designed battleship with a mixed human and alien crew appeared near Station Epsilon. The hegemony forces, expecting no resistance for days, were caught completely unprepared. The battle lasted less than an hour. The hegemony ships, confused by the sudden arrival of reinforcements and unprepared for the human vessel's unconventional tactics, retreated with heavy losses. Word of the victory spread quickly through Confederation space. The humans had not only created technology thought impossible, but had used it to save thousands of lives. In a Confederation Council meeting the following week, the Tsal ambassador spoke with newfound respect. "For 10,000 years, the hegemony has advanced steadily. For the first time, they have been pushed back." The crystal being's facets gleamed with an emotion the humans were learning to recognize as admiration. "And it is the youngest species among us who has done it." The Nexus drive went into full production 1 month later. The age of human innovation had begun. Daniel Morgan didn't look special. He was of average height with brown hair that was starting to gray at the temples. His suit was plain and his voice quiet. But when he spoke, people listened. "The dispute between the Lorithai and Vex has gone on for 12,000 years, Daniel said to the gathered representatives. 12,000 years of hatred over territories that neither side can fully use. The Confederation Grand Council chamber was silent. Hundreds of representatives from across the galaxy watched the human diplomat. The three oldest members of the Confederation, the Lorathi, Vex, and Mithrans, had threatened to withdraw from the alliance. Their ancient territorial disputes had resurfaced, threatening to tear apart the Confederation when unity was needed most against the hegemony. Humans are new to space, Daniel continued. We don't have the history you do, but maybe that's an advantage. We see possibilities where you see only the past. He walked to the central display and activated a map of the disputed systems. The Lorathi need planets with specific atmospheric conditions. The Vex require certain mineral compositions. The Mithrans depend on particular radiation bands. None of you can use all the planets in these systems. He paused. But together, you can use them all. His proposal was simple. Instead of exclusive control, the three species would share the territories, each taking the planets suited to their needs. Trade routes would be jointly maintained. Resources would be fairly divided. This is not how we have done things, the Vex elder hissed. That's exactly my point, Daniel replied calmly. What you've been doing hasn't worked for 12,000 years. Maybe it's time to try something new. Meanwhile, far from the politicking of the Grand Council, biologist Maya Wilson was on a different mission. Her research vessel orbited a remote planet near hegemony space. Maya had spent years studying captured hegemony technology and the few biological samples they had of the enemy. Run the analysis again, she told her assistant, a young scientist named Peter. Dr. Wilson, we've run it 5 times, Peter said. The results are the same. Maya stared at the data on her screen. It couldn't be right. If it was, everything they thought they knew about the void hegemony was wrong. The samples showed signs of genetic modification, not for aggression or strength, but for survival. The hegemony's technology wasn't designed just for war, but for running. They weren't just conquerors. They were refugees. Back at the Grand Council, the debate had gone on for hours. Finally, the Lorathi representative raised a tentacle-like limb. The humans' plan has merit, they admitted reluctantly. We would be willing to try this arrangement for 100 years. The Vex elder looked shocked, but after consulting with their delegation, also agreed. The Mithran consensus followed. The Stellar Accord was formed, ending a dispute older than human civilization. As Daniel accepted congratulations, a message arrived from Maya Wilson. He read it, his face growing pale. I need to speak to the High Council, he said. Immediately. In a secure chamber, Daniel showed Maya's findings to the 7 members of the High Council, the Confederation's supreme governing body. The hegemony is running from something, he explained. Something they call the Harvesters, ancient machines that destroy advanced civilizations when they reach certain development thresholds. The Xal Council members' crystalline form darkened with concern. If this is true, it changes everything we know about the conflict. That's not all, Daniel said. Based on Maya's analysis of their flight patterns, the Harvesters aren't just a threat to the hegemony. They're coming for all of us. The council fell silent. Then the most senior member, a Vex who had served for centuries, spoke. We need a human perspective on this situation. Our old ways of thinking will not serve us against this new threat. The ancient alien looked at Daniel. For the first time in Confederation history, we invite a representative of a probationary species to join the High Council. Daniel Morgan became the first human on the Confederation High Council that day. But Maya Wilson's discovery meant his diplomatic skills would soon face their greatest test, convincing the Confederation to make peace with its oldest enemy. Maya Wilson's discovery spread quickly through human space, despite the Confederation High Council's efforts to keep it secret. Humans had never been good at keeping information contained, especially information this important. The void hegemony wasn't simply evil. They were running for their lives. Captain Ryan Harrison stood on the bridge of the ESS Intrepid, Earth's newest and most advanced warship. Beside him was Dr. Nora Patel, one of the best xenolinguists in human space. They had just received orders directly from the human government, bypassing Confederation command. Are we really doing this? Ryan asked, looking at the coordinates on his screen. They marked a point in neutral space, far from both Confederation and hegemony territories. Nora nodded. If Maya's findings are correct, we need to talk to them. The Confederation has been fighting the hegemony for 10,000 years. They'll never agree to this meeting. And if they attack us instead of talking, then we die, Nora said simply. But we have to try. The Intrepid dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the coordinates. They were alone in empty space. No signs of hegemony ships, reported the sensor officer. Ryan frowned. Did they get our message? Did we translate it correctly? The translation was accurate, Nora said. Whether they believed us is another question. They waited for 3 hours. Just as Ryan was about to order a return to Confederation space, the sensors blared. Hegemony vessel approaching. The ship that appeared was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Intrepid. Its black hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Weapons ports lined its sides, all closed for now. They're hailing us, the communications officer said, sounding surprised. On screen, Ryan ordered. The being that appeared wasn't what any of them expected. Hegemony soldiers were rarely seen and never communicated with. This creature had pale skin stretched over a skeletal face. Its eyes were large and completely black. When it spoke, its voice was translated by the ship's computers. You claim to know of the harvesters, it said. Prove it. Nora stepped forward. We've analyzed your flight patterns across the galaxy for the past 1,000 years. You're not expanding randomly. You're moving away from something coming from the galactic core. The alien was silent for a moment. Then, what do humans want? To understand, Ryan said, and maybe to help. The meeting lasted for hours. The being, who called itself Krell, explained what the hegemony had been running for millennia. The harvesters were ancient machines designed to cull intelligent life when it reached a certain technological level. They had been created by a long-dead species who feared being overtaken by their evolutionary successors. We fight and take worlds because we must, Krell said. We need resources to keep running, to stay ahead of the harvesters. Your Confederation doesn't understand. They think we conquer out of cruelty. The Confederation has lost billions of lives to your advance, Ryan pointed out. And trillions more will die if the harvesters reach populated space, Krell replied. They don't discriminate between hegemony and Confederation. When they returned to Earth, Ryan and Nora faced harsh criticism for meeting with the enemy. The Confederation representatives were furious. Meeting with the hegemony without permission was against every protocol. But the data they brought back couldn't be ignored. The harvesters were real, and they were coming. Daniel Morgan, now on the High Council, faced the most difficult diplomatic challenge of his career. Convincing the Confederation to consider peace with an enemy they had fought for 10,000 years seemed impossible. Many species had lost homeworlds to the hegemony. Others had been nearly wiped out. We have a choice, Daniel told the Council. We can continue fighting the hegemony and be destroyed separately by the harvesters, or we can work together and maybe, just maybe, have a chance to survive. The debate raged for weeks. Humans found themselves in a unique position. As newcomers to galactic politics, they didn't carry the same hatred for the hegemony that older species did. They became the voice of reason, the bridge between ancient enemies. And soon, they would need that bridge. The first signs of the harvesters had been detected at the edge of the galaxy. Admiral Catherine Ward had never expected to shake hands with a hegemony commander. Yet here she was, on the neutral space station Harmony, doing exactly that. The hegemony leader's hand felt cold and dry in hers. This alliance goes against everything I have fought for, the hegemony commander said. But survival requires adaptation. Catherine nodded. On that, we can agree. It had taken 3 months of intense negotiations. Daniel Morgan had worked tirelessly, moving between Confederation and hegemony representatives. There had been shouting, threats, and once, an attempted assassination. But finally, the impossible had happened. A truce between enemies who had fought for 10,000 years. Not everyone was happy. Several Confederation species refused to join the alliance. Others did so reluctantly. Earth's government had supported the peace fully, seeing it as the only way forward. Scientist Gregory Paris stood beside Catherine, his data pad showing the latest readings. The Harvester probe will reach the Andali system in 2 days, he said. It's our best chance to learn about their capabilities before the main force arrives. The Andali system was uninhabited, which made it perfect for their first encounter with the Harvesters. Ships from both the Confederation and Hegemony had gathered there, hidden behind the system's large gas giant. Will our combined fleet be enough? Catherine asked. Gregory shrugged. Honestly, we don't know. The Harvesters have been culling civilizations for millions of years. They must have faced resistance before. 2 days later, Catherine stood on the bridge of her flagship, the ESS Defender. Around her, ships from a dozen species formed a battle line. The sight of Hegemony warships fighting alongside Confederation vessels would have been unthinkable just months ago. Harvester probe entering the system, reported the sensor officer. On the main screen, a small object appeared. It looked deceptively simple, a metallic sphere about the size of a small moon, with no visible weapons or engines. It moved at incredible speed, heading directly toward the system's star. What's it doing? Catherine asked. Scanning, Gregory answered, studying his instruments. It's collecting data on the system, looking for signs of advanced life. They had planned to observe the probe, to learn about it before engaging. But the probe changed course suddenly, heading straight for their hiding place. It detected us, Catherine said. All ships, battle positions. The combined fleet moved with surprising coordination. They had trained together for weeks, learning each other's tactics and technologies. The probe fired first, a beam of energy unlike anything they had seen before. It cut through the shields of a Hegemony destroyer as if they weren't there. The ship exploded silently in the vacuum of space. The fleet returned fire. Human-designed missiles with Confederation guidance systems impacted the probe. Hegemony energy weapons followed. For a moment, it seemed the probe was overwhelmed. Then it adapted. Its surface shifted, becoming reflective where energy weapons hit and absorptive where physical projectiles struck. It fired again, destroying 2 more ships. It's learning, Gregory said, horror in his voice, countering every weapon we use. Catherine had studied human military history extensively. Then we need to use too many different attacks for it to counter at once. She opened a channel to all ships. All vessels, fire all weapons simultaneously on my mark. Different targets, different timings. Don't establish a pattern it can learn. The chaotic attack worked. The probe couldn't adapt to so many different weapons at once. After an hour of intense fighting, it finally broke apart. But not before sending a signal toward the galactic core. We've beaten 1 probe, Catherine said as the fleet assessed damages. But now they know we're here, and they know we can fight. Gregory looked at his data. Based on its transmission, we have perhaps a year before the main Harvester force arrives. Catherine nodded grimly. Then we have a year to prepare. 1 year to ready the galaxy for the greatest war it has ever seen. What no one realized yet was that humanity's unique approach to warfare, chaotic, adaptive, unpredictable, would soon prove to be the galaxy's greatest asset against the methodical Harvesters. The Harvester War lasted 27 years. Planets fell. Species were pushed to the edge of extinction. Earth itself was attacked in the 12th year of the war. Its cities burned, its oceans boiled. But humanity endured. They moved underground, into space habitats, to colonies on other worlds. They adapted, as humans always had. Fleet Admiral Jason Carter looked out at the assembled ships. The combined fleet of the galaxy stretched as far as the eye could see. Thousands of vessels from hundreds of worlds. Many designs had been built using human innovations. The Nexus drive had been improved over the years, allowing ships to appear and disappear from battle almost instantly. "Status report," he said to his second-in-command. "The harvesters have reached the Arcturus system," she replied. "This is it, sir. Our last line of defense before the core worlds." Jason nodded. After nearly 3 decades of fighting, they had learned much about the enemy. The harvesters were machines, yes, but they operated on programs written millions of years ago. They could adapt to new situations, but their underlying directives never changed. They were predictable in some ways. This would be their advantage. Strategic Director Lisa Chen joined them on the bridge. Once a historian, Lisa had become one of the most important figures in the war effort. Her study of human conflicts throughout history had shaped their battle plans against the harvesters. "The task force is ready," she said. "Commander Sullivan has everything in place." Far away, near the Galactic core, a small team led by Commander Eric Sullivan had been working on humanity's last desperate plan. For years, they had studied captured harvester technology with scientists from across the galaxy. They had found something no one had noticed before, a fundamental flaw in the harvester's operating system. The harvesters had been designed to destroy advanced species, but they determined advancement through specific technological signatures. Their creators had never imagined species developing along different paths, using different technologies. They certainly hadn't imagined cooperation between species with completely different evolutionary histories. Eric and his team had created a virus. Not a biological one, but a program designed to infiltrate and reprogram the harvester's central command. The only problem, Eric explained to the gathered scientists, is that someone needs to get this device to the harvester command ship. It can't be transmitted. It has to be physically connected. "A suicide mission," said Axel Ter, the crystalline scientist who had worked closely with the humans. Eric nodded. "Yes, whoever goes won't be coming back." The battle at Arcturus was the largest in galactic history. Harvester ships numbered in the thousands. The Allied fleet matched them. The fighting was desperate, brutal. Ships on both sides fell by the hundreds. In the chaos, a small, fast ship slipped through the harvester lines. The ESS Hope, piloted by Eric Sullivan, carried the virus device and a small team of volunteers from 6 different species. Fleet Admiral Carter watched the tactical display as the Hope approached the massive harvester command ship at the center of the enemy fleet. "They've been spotted," someone reported. Harvester fighters converged on the small ship. The Hope took hit after hit, but kept going, protected by shields designed by a human hegemony engineering team. "They've reached the command ship," Lisa said, her voice tight with tension. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the harvester command ship began to act strangely. Its movements became erratic. It fired on its own ships. "It's working," Jason breathed.